as you know, Zohran Mamdani is the mayor-elect of New York City, and people are mad about it. The critics are losing their minds that Mamdani is the mayor-elect. And now he's making decisions about his transition committee. He's making decisions about appointments, and his critics are getting even madder. And this week, the thing that's gotten them the most mad is the fact that they have decided to bring rapper turned activist Mysonne into his criminal legal system transition committee. Now, I expected outrage from some people, but the amount of outrage I've been hearing about this is crazy, absolutely crazy. Now, Mysonne announced in late November that he and others from Until Freedom, and if you don't know Until Freedom, we're going to talk about that tonight, have been tapped to help shape the incoming administration's criminal justice vision. The group, which was founded to fight systemic racism and state violence, called their appointment a testament to decades of work inside of Black and brown communities. Supporters flooded the comments. I'm talking about people like Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott. They were celebrating the move. They said that this is long overdue representation. But, you know, conservatives immediately resurfaced some old stuff. They put up Mysonne's 1999 armed robbery conviction and the 7-year sentence that derailed his early rap career, questioning how someone once convicted of serious charges could help decide the future of public safety. How could they do this? They tried to say that his pick was reckless. Damn it, they missed the point. They missed the point so much, but we'll get to that. Advocacy groups aligned with law enforcement said that this is disturbing. Now, first of all, Mysonne has long maintained that he was innocent, refusing a plea deal and going to trial where he was ultimately convicted just as his Def Jam debut was about to happen. But after his release, he rebuilt himself. He turned his life toward activism and community service, which is how I know the brother. His work includes creating programs for men detained on Rikers Island, authoring children's books centered on rights and manhood, and co-founding Until Freedom, an organization deeply embedded in police accountability and civil rights organizing. I'm always going to stand with the brother. I always believe in what he's doing. I'm always going to represent him to the best of my ability. But I was like, why do I need to represent him when he could represent himself? The brother is brilliant. He's articulate. And he is here on Night School. My brother, good to see you.
Blessings, King. How you doing today?
Man, I'm better now that you're here, man. What has been going on this week? This has been a crazy week for you, man.
It's been, I always say this God's plan, man. This week, we call them the filthy rags, decided, to attack me and a couple other of the appointees to the transition team for the Mayor-Elect Mamdani, and, we were used to it. Tamika's used to getting attacked. And, we had a couple other people being attacked. One of our sisters, Zakia Ansari, was attacked. They made they thought she was Angela Davis or something. They called her somebody else. But I when I first heard, I seen the first attack, it was just comical because it was like, okay, I was incarcerated. Yeah, I was incarcerated, and I maintained my innocence. But the reality of the situation is that makes more sense. Someone who has lived life experience in the criminal justice system, who's come outside and been working outside of the criminal justice system, who knows both areas, should be welcomed into making changes and being on the advisory board of what needs to go on inside of the criminal justice situation. So first, I laughed that one off, and then I woke up yesterday to being on the front of the New York Post with this cover right here, being labeled the crime boss.
Crime boss.
It was just hilarious to me. A lot of people was like, yo, it's defamation. And I say, what they mean for bad, God uses for good. And what the only thing they did was make people want to realize, who is my son? What exactly does he do? It was ironic that they had me on this cover with a Boycott Black Murder shirt.
Well, that was that was the part that cracked me up when I saw it. I said, they don't even realize what they did. They see black murder on the thing, and they probably thought that they was doing something, like they was making you look bad. They didn't even see the boycott and the slash across it. Like, I know a whole bunch of people that saw that shirt that's going to be inspired by
it. Actually, yesterday, the sales for the shirt went up like 110% yesterday. They came to the website. so many people brought the shirt. So you know what, they thought they were attacking me or trying to defame me and deteriorate my character, and all they did was show my character. You know,
Right.
I was able to explain to people what Boycott Black Murder was, you know, the national campaign that we utilize to talk about violence in our communities, whether community violence, whether police violence, all violence involving Black people that's limiting our lives. And we talked about how we stop that violence. And we utilize a national campaign that we've been on board with. All the CMS workers and violence interrupters around this country have, you know, signed on to this campaign. You know, this work I've been doing for almost 20, I've been free almost 20 years. And for almost 20 years, I've utilized my time and my effort and my platform to stop violence and curtail all of the things inside our community that are negative. You know, I started programs in schools for violence. I've started music programs, being a former hip hop artist. Well, I'm still a hip hop artist.
So you still get busy. Don't say former. Don't say former.
We're gonna take that, but you know, music is my passion. But you know, I realize that this work is my purpose. So I utilize both of those to do the work. So you know, I say thank you to Mayor Mamdani for seeing that and allowing me to give my input into what needs to go into this administration, the people who I think are able to actually lead this administration in criminal justice the way that he sees fit.
Talk to me about that process to become part of the Mamdani kind of team, because he could have picked a lot of people, but he picked you. He picked your comrades, your colleagues. Let me say colleagues before people go crazy. How did that happen? How did y'all get connected?
Well, you know, what happened was we were watching the mayor. A lot of us, especially from our community, my community, would pretty much feel like we were done with politics. You know, feel like Mayor Adams let us down. We feel like this presidency and this whole administration was terrible. And we started paying attention to Mayor-Elect Mamdani and listening to what he was saying and saying, wow, if he's serious about what he's doing or what he wants to do, if he's serious about this, then why would we not be a part of it? And we realized there were a lot of Black people, especially from our communities, that were not engaged. They were really not engaged. So what we decided to do is, as we listened to his message and realized it resonated with us, what we decided to do is we're going to organize meetings and we're going to sit in meetings and have conversations. We want our community to hear what it is that he has to say and listen and hear him out. You know, and we felt when we looked at the first election, when he was noted as the candidate, as the Democratic candidate, we realized that there was not a large participation from our demographic. And we realized that, wow, you know, and we realized at that point that he was going to be our mayor. So we reached out to him and he was very forthcoming, and he wanted to reach out to us. He said, what do we need to do? And we sat down and we got people from our community to come have meetings and listen to what he was presenting. And we brought the right people to the table. We brought community people, we brought activists, we brought artists, we brought all the people. And we started to realize that his message resonated with us. And I guess he's seen the value in that with us and decided that, you know, we needed to be on the advisory board.
What do you want to see different come from this administration concretely? I get we want to see fewer people locked up. We want to see more justice. But what does that look like practically?
Well, I want to see an administration that's actually democratic, that's actually for the people, that wants to hear what the people say and is really for the people. What Mamdani ran on is something that most of our community actually need. We want the middle class and the working class people to be able to have livable circumstances, right? We actually want to see that. I want to see him go to bat for the policies that he said he wanted to put. I want to see him go to bat for putting supermarkets for low income people. I want to see him go to bat for free buses. I want to see him go to bat for freezing housing. I want to see him go to bat. I want to see him really say, this is what the people want, and win, lose, or draw, I'm going to go to bat for it. I don't want to have the same politician that, you know, they campaign on some things and they say, oh, we're going to try to do this and we trying, and they won't let us do it. I don't want to see that no more. And I feel just having conversations with him and the energy that he has, he doesn't feel beholden to this political system. I feel like he feels like he's beholden to the people. So I want to see that in the administration.
I got a little frustrated when I saw he was keeping the police commissioner. I didn't love that, but I understand he's trying to thread a needle. He's trying to, make certain things work. Do you feel that this police commissioner and this police force can be pushed in the right direction? Do you have any faith? Not perfect, but do you feel like they can be pushed in the right direction?
I really don't know. We were having that conversation, and I can't tell you. I think leaders have to lead, right? So if I'm giving him an opportunity to be the leader, the mayor, if I'm voting him, then I have to say, okay, some things that you're doing, I might not understand. When it gets to the point where, all right, it's over and it's failed, then I told him we're gonna boycott you too. We're gonna be out here protesting you too. Like it's because we on this, this advisory board and we want you as mayor. When the minute you do something wrong and it's not for the people, we're gonna protest against you as well. So hopefully, his hunch and his leadership in this situation with the police commissioner works out. But the minute it don't, and we see that we're heading down this slope again, then we're going to be right outside protesting.
I'm glad you said that, because I see sometimes people who are activists, they're on the ground, they're working, they get brought into the powerful's quarters, they get brought to the White House, they get brought to City Hall, whatever. And the next thing you know, they're not speaking truth to power anymore. They just become part of the administration. How do you avoid the temptation of becoming powerful and not caring about the activism anymore?
I think for me, the activism is my power, right? I don't see it the other way. I see the minute that I detach myself from the people and the voices of the people and the needs of the people in which I say that I stand for, then I've lost my power. And that's what they've done to so many quote unquote activists and leaders. They get attached to this level of fame and this level of entry and resources that they forget how they got there. And I think me coming from humble beginnings, being formerly incarcerated, having nothing, losing everything from a record deal to go back down to zero and coming home and just having to rebuild myself, I'm not beholden to anything that is not righteous to me. So I think, and those are the people that I attach myself. When you look at our Until Freedom team, when you look at Linda Sarsour and you look at Tamika, these are proven 30-plus year activists who have protested pretty much every president, mayor, governor that they've had, and they've been cool with them too. I remember Tamika was on the transition team for Bill de Blasio, and we protested Bill de Blasio. And when he tried to go for president, we got thrown out the DNC at the DNC debates because we was the first one saying fire Pantaleo. So we've never been beholden to any politician. And we are always for the people. We work for the people. That's our slogan. We work for the people, and we're gonna always speak and fight on behalf of the people.
For those that don't know Until Freedom, what's the root of that organization? I want people to know exactly where y'all come from and how.
Well, the root of Until Freedom is we all met under the tutelage of the great Harry Belafonte. We were working with the Gathering for Justice, and we had all formed an organization which was the direct action part of the Gathering for Justice, called the Justice League, which was founded by my brother Angelo Pinto and Carmen Perez, who was the executive director of the Gathering for Justice. And we all just came together. Tamika had brought me to the fold because I was doing prison work. I was inside the detention centers and dealing with prison young youth, utilizing music as a way alternative to violence. And those were programs that we were doing inside of detention centers. And then we just decided, that we love the Gathering for Justice and we love the old guard, but we felt like activism needed to look like us. It needed to have our voice. It needed to have the culture of now. And we felt like, I always felt a little detached from the earlier activism. I didn't look like, the activist that I liked. I wasn't polished. I came from prison, but I wanted to speak up and I wanted to fight for my people. So, I went inside those rooms and a lot of times I didn't feel comfortable. And a lot of people didn't understand why I was in those rooms. And I made myself comfortable in those rooms. There were people who made me feel comfortable. And I wanted to create an organization that so many different people felt comfortable in. When you look at Until Freedom, you have Linda Sarsour as a Palestinian from Brooklyn. You got Tamika, who grew up in the legacy of NAN, and then you got Angelo Pinto, who is a lawyer by trade that comes from Queens, black man. So we have a very diverse group of leadership inside of our organization, and we wanted that to reflect in the organization, and we want people to feel like they were welcomed in this organization. So we decided to branch out from the Gathering for Justice. After they did the Women's March, we decided we wanted to branch out and just do our own thing and create something that felt more like ours.
Well, it definitely looks and feels more like y'all. It feels very authentic. The people who are critical of Mamdani and saying, yo, y'all brought this guy, he is formally incarcerated. Again, for those who just tuned in, we showed this disgusting cover from the New York Post yesterday, which is a right-wing rag, and they say you were appointed as a justice advisor despite the fact that you are formally incarcerated. And of course, they make Mamdani look angry and crazy at the bottom of the screen too, because that's what they do. What do you say to the person who says, how could you possibly talk about justice and criminal justice if you were inside of a prison? Well,
I think anybody who asks that question, is not really thinking, but I will answer it. The simple question is, we like to say in our organization is those that's closest to the problem are closest to the solution. And the lived experience that I've had being inside of the criminal justice system, being wrongly incarcerated, wrongly accused, wrongly convicted, watching young boys come in and out the system, being mentors to people inside that system, losing 7 years of my life, losing everything, fighting for appeals, going to law libraries, watching every level of this justice system and understanding how it plagued our community, then coming home, going back into those jails and mentoring a lot of the youth that's in there. So when they come out, that they have a clearer path. Being on both sides of those things, I think that it is very clear that I have an expertise that someone who hasn't done all those things has. So I would just like to tell them that, unfortunately, when you have lived experience in even a negative thing, it makes you an expert. It forced me to have to understand this legal system. It forced me to have to say, well, why does somebody have this amount of parole and probation after they've done this amount of time? And why are they being sentenced at this high rate for crimes that people who do way worse are not getting? Well, why are these things happening? And you go through the things and they shouldn't be happening. And the reality of the situation is those people who are coming home from prison, who don't ever want to go back to prison, want to contribute to make sure. And those are some of the most effective criminal justice advocates in the world at this time. So, I would tell anyone who doesn't understand that just to do a little research, man, pay attention and just watch me work.
That's it. And you've been working, man. And that's why I get so frustrated. And I know you've maintained your innocence and you were wrongfully incarcerated for sure. I'm going to say even people who committed crimes and did the crime, we can't throw them away either, because I hate that we sometimes only argue innocence. People do stuff.
That's right.
And if the same people that are saying that these are correctional facilities and that prisons are good and can rehabilitate and you need to do your time, when they come out, they forget all that. It's like, if y'all really believe in prison that much, then when somebody comes out and has paid the debt to society, why are y'all making them start at -5 instead of back at square one at least? And I get frustrated by that. Do you see the Mamdani administration having a different position toward formerly incarcerated people?
Oh, definitely. When I had this conversation, and when I seen one of Mamdani's responses about all of the backlash that he was getting, it seemed like he got it very clearly. He spoke about how the goal is to have. First of all, we have over 400 people on this advisory, on this transition team, and it's different ideologies, different backgrounds, different realities, and all of these people are coming together to create what New York actually looks like, right? If you have just people who've never been incarcerated doing something about criminal justice, then you can't actually speak for the well-being of those who are incarcerated and those who are trying to reacclimate into society. You can't prepare, right? You can't stop recidivism if you don't even understand what creates recidivism. You can't stop incarceration if you don't have the mind state or the ideology or the understanding of someone who actually is is committing crimes, right? You don't know those things, then you don't have an expertise in that, So I believe that he definitely has a different approach to it, way different to Mayor Adams, who was to lock him up, beat him up, who told me that the police punching a woman in the face for yelling was justified because she should have not walked up on him. So, and that type of mentality is what has plagued our community. But I think Mayor Mamdani sees that. I think he humanizes everyone. I think he sees the humanality in everyone, and that's something that a lot of these administrations don't, because a lot of them come from one aspect. When you got somebody like Eric Adams, who was the top cop, and and he's been a cop his whole life, he doesn't see someone who is quote unquote committed a crime or a criminal as even somebody who is worthy of justice. So, and I think Mamdani sees it differently. So I'm eager, I'm hopeful, and I believe that I don't know what we're going to do, but I believe that something is going to change.
I hope you're right, brother. Well, before you go, how can we support you? How can people reach out to you? What should they do?
Make sure you go. First of all, go to untilfreedom.com. You can follow our work. You can invest in our work. I don't say donations because we don't like donations. We like investments, because investments means you actually believe in the work that we do. Buy a Boycott Black Murder t-shirt and hat to support the cover. We might we might start the Crime Boss t-shirts next, but
now, that would be fly. Yo, get the Crime Boss.
Get the Crime Boss t-shirts next. But right now we got the Boycott Black Murder t-shirts. So go support that. You can follow me on Instagram at Mysonne NY General. On all socials is at Mysonne NY General. And just keep on supporting me. I appreciate it.
Man, we appreciate you, brother. Love you, brother. Let me know how I can support you, and let's talk soon.
I love you, man. Keep it up, man.
Yes, sir.
Peace.
All right. That was Mysonne. Dope hip-hop artist, dope activist, and just a great person, man, doing important work. And I want to reiterate that point, man, that the work he's doing out here in the world matters in ways that we don't even fully calculate. And he has a track record, a proven track record. For all you Mamdani haters out there, all you people saying that, Mamdani is just bringing on criminals. Well, first of all, again, formerly incarcerated people have a right to be in society, and they have a right to contribute to society. That's what democracy is. And again, my son was wrongfully incarcerated. He didn't do the thing that he was accused, tried, and convicted of. He was innocent. But again, you can commit crimes and still be a contributor to society. Y'all be electing people president who commit crimes. You know what I'm saying? And suddenly now you can't be on an advisory commission if you have a conviction and a wrongful one. We got to think about this differently. But I'm excited to see Until Freedom connected to Mamdani. I'm excited to see Mysonne connected to Mamdani. And the reason is because it shows that Mamdani has a broader vision of criminal justice. Now, I don't like that Mamdani held on to Tish. I don't think that was the right move. I'm only speaking for myself right now. I think that it sent the wrong message. There are people out there he could have gotten that the rank and file police officers could have stood with, but I think the firing, it was a political choice. I don't think it was the best choice for his vision. But I also love the fact that he has brought on this criminal legal advisory board who's going to push them, and that's something my son just said that I think is also incredibly important, which is, even if you put me on this advisory team, we're going to boycott you too. We're going to protest you too. We're going to challenge you too, if necessary. That's the difference. We are from a tradition that recognizes that civil disobedience and protest doesn't just come from our ideological enemies. It doesn't just come from the person on the other side of the aisle. It's easy to protest Trump. It's easy to protest George Bush, but we was outside protesting Clinton. We was outside protesting Obama. Because if I'm in Somalia getting hit with a drone, I don't care that it's a Democratic drone hitting me. You get what I'm saying? If you're shutting down public education or mental health facilities, I don't care if the person stripping the money away has a blue tie on instead of a red tie. We have to be outraged at injustice, no matter where it comes from. And that's what my song is about. That's what this tradition is about. And he embodies it. So shout out to him. Salute to him.